What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka Ferst Report, and it is Thursday, October 8th, 2020, and it is that time of week, wonderful time of week, the call to post, the original call to post, with myself and my highly decorated handicapper, Raider Jim. How are you doing today, Mr. Martinez?
I'm doing good. Every day's a good day when you wake up and you're above the dirt. You know what I'm saying? So
Amen.
This is a great day, and I want to say a couple things off the bat. And that first one would be to all the rock and rollers out there across the world, and especially those from Southern California, to Wolfgang Van Halen, Alex Van Halen, and the Van Halen family. Thank you so much for the gift of Eddie, and our condolences out to the entire Van Halen family. Eddie up there, I know you're rocking it out still, so thank you for all you gave to us. That was quite a, what else in 2020? It's almost like when I hear people say it, I want to tell them, please quit asking that question, because 2020 keeps finding one more thing to throw at us.
Always. And maybe I'm just hyper aware, or maybe we all are just hyper aware of it. I feel like it's more, I think, when you start the year off with Kobe, which was borderline, I mean, I've heard JFK. I wasn't born. I wasn't obviously even thought of by then, but that's what I heard, kind of almost the, or maybe Princess Diana. JFK
Right.
might be a bit much, but let's go Princess Diana. And I do remember Princess Diana, and not really knowing, but just 2020, like you said. And I think we have really lost a lot. I mean, even just in the baseball world, the last 2 weeks, with Lou Brock, Tom Seaver, and
Bob Gibson.
Yeah, Bob Gibson, who we just lost. But yeah, really, Van Halen, that one hit hard, because, I mean, you don't have to be a rock and roll hair icon or hair band fan to know Van Halen, or at least two or three of those songs.
Right.
So
let's get on to talking about racing.
Amen. Well, first and foremost, let's talk about last week. Obviously, this past Saturday, a first ever, hopefully first and only, hopefully we never have to wait till October for the Preakness, but we did. It was the third leg of the Triple Crown, and it had some storylines. But I think we might have been one of the few podcasts. I don't think we were the only. I'm sure there were some out there, but we're one of the few podcasts that really brought up one of the kind of obscure, or maybe not talked about as much, storyline in terms of Swiss Skydiver. When the draw came out, and she had the morning line of 6-1, right, I thought that was pretty fair. First, there's five fillies going into that race in 145 years that have won that race. Now, Swiss Skydiver is a special filly, but we're talking about a rare breed of filly to be able to run with the boys in a Triple Crown race. And my goodness, did she ever. But before that, the amount of, I mean, okay, maybe disrespect is being a bit dramatic, but she got up to, I believe she finished at 11-1. She could have gotten up to maybe 14-1.
Yeah, I was surprised. Honestly, I was really surprised that the line moved the way it did. I thought, if anything, it would hold steady. I thought maybe it would even push to 4-1, something like that. And then when I saw it go 11, then of course that little voice in your head says, somebody knows something. Why is nobody betting on that horse? Or why is the betting so down? Or in retrospect, everybody was betting the Baffert contingency. I mean, if Baffert's got two horses in and that's where you're putting your money, you think you're going to walk to the window for sure and collect on a win bet. But it wasn't to be. And Swiss Skydiver, fantastic race. I guess my analogy, I used track and field at one point last week when we were talking. And imagine a group of collegiates who didn't know the face or recognize or know the accomplishments of a Florence Griffith Joyner, Flojo. And she just walks out there and lines up against these guys to do the 100-meter, and they're going, oh, how cute, she wants to run with us. And then the starter pistol goes, and this girl just blazes down the track and beats them all. It was a phenomenal race. It was, there was nothing to question, and the disappointment on Bob Baffert was obvious. Ken McPeak, the joy on his face was so deserved. Robbie Alvarado, the jockey, also, it was his second win, and I was real happy for him. When you see these guys, the real recognized professional East Coast jockey, but I mean, these are guys that have been there and been there and been there, and every time they get their due with a big win like that, it just makes me feel good inside.
I
So
agree.
that, congratulations on that. That was a great race.
Amen. And I really do. Robbie Alvarado, my goodness. Not everyone, kind of really understands. And I really probably don't fully understand the jockey nuances and the moves and all the things that really you have to know if you're in that profession. But, making that move on the turn, you don't see it often. But I will say they talked about it after the race. It was a very aggressive move. It was a jockey that knew, hey, I have a horse that can run and run well, because I think if he was a little hesitant, he would have waited. And if he waited, it wouldn't have, the hole wouldn't have been there. Now, obviously, we talked about the size of Swiss Skydiver. She maybe could have gotten into some holes that maybe the others couldn't have. But, when you get ready to turn for home, you don't know where the holes are going to be because you don't have those rear view mirrors.
Right. And you don't want to pull. You don't want to pull back, because if you pull back you don't need to give Authentic that much space to get so far ahead of you. You're not going to catch him. That's not going to happen. If Tiz the Law could not catch that horse, there was no way any other horse was going to do it. So again, it was such a well executed race, and she showed what she's worth, her value. Just fantastic.
And the crazy thing is, Authentic ran a hell of a race. I really, obviously, when you're the favorite, whatever it was, you obviously want to win. But I think Authentic ran a hell of a race, probably got pushed for the first time. I think maybe went back to the Derby and said, oh, okay, here's another horse that's going to run next to me. Cool. I'll see you later. And all of a sudden, whoa, what just happened? We hit the line, and I don't know.
Who was that horse? Right.
Unbelievable, because you almost do think because these horses are smarter than I would say about half of the human beings on this planet, honestly. Anyways, but they understand the situation. They understand what is expected of them. These are athletes at the highest caliber. Really, I mean, we're talking Preakness. This is the top 1% of thoroughbreds in the world going at it. I will say Art Collector. I was big on Art Collector. I actually picked Art Collector to win. I thought the horse was going to be able to get the job done. I really do believe that injury has slowed him or hampered him a bit. Now, obviously, I'm not a doctor. I'm not nowhere near that horse, but it's just from where that horse was running prior to the Derby or prior to the declaration for the Derby, and then the workout, whatever it was, getting pulled out with that injury. I think that might have been something that hampers him. Have to keep an eye on that. We obviously did see Honor AP retire. Once again, nothing, the horse will be fine, and will have a great life in stud. But in terms of running, 8 Honor AP's done. And I don't know. Obviously, like I said, I don't know about Art Collector, but going forward, I will definitely be a little hesitant. But I think that horse, valiant effort, and might just been a bit too much. But like you said, Kenny McPeak, just the joy, knowing that. I'm sure there were a lot of people in that training where the trainer, fraternity or whatever, that were really like, are you really running her? Okay. And for him, maybe it was a told you so. I told you all she could run with the boys, not only that, and she did it and won. So congratulations to everyone involved.
And I just looked up. I was curious as we were talking about the speed and the races that they each ran. They respectively ran. Equibase shows that both of them clocked at 109. That it wasn't like Swiss Skydiver came in at 110 and Authentic came in at 108. No, they both came in at 109 for that race, top speed, and that's moving. That's a good pace. And yet, I don't know if you noticed when they were doing the walkout from the paddock, there was one shot where they actually were not quite side by side, but very close in proximity. And the size difference was just like, oh my gosh, is she that tiny, or is he just that big of a beast that I didn't realize? And again, speaking back to the jockeys and the fraternity of jockeys and what we have talked about throughout the spring and summer, and the type of athletes they really are. Again, keep in mind that those guys weigh in with their stuff 110, 115 around there, and they are on 1,000 pounds of horse, minimum 1,000 pounds of horse. And when you talk about even the tiny horse, you know, in comparison, the tiny horse of Swiss Skydiver, and being able to maneuver that beast the way that he did, man, that's a team right there. They're both athletes. She's the athlete and he's the athlete, and congratulations to the trainer, because what a job he did.
Well, and another part of it too is those moves and those and the smallest, you know, loss of focus, a wrong move, and yourself or another jockey could die. You know,
Right.
it's I can never understate the danger of it. Unfortunately, you know, it's been a long time that I can remember, but we do see those incidents and we are reminded of that. Luckily,
Yeah.
we haven't seen it in at least anything too major in a while. But moving on to really what is the final weekend of the Breeders' Cup Challenge races at
Hard to
Belmont.
believe. Hard to believe we're here. First, I want to give congratulations. There was one midweek oddball scheduled race in Keeneland yesterday, the Jessamine Stakes, named after a county out there in that region. And that was won by Aunt Pearl, who was the favorite, has qualified for the Longines Juvenile Fillies Turf Mile for the Breeders' Cup. $1 million race that's going to be, but she ran a great race, won me some money. So now she became my favorite aunt just like that. It was great. So congratulations to Aunt Pearl, and best of luck when you get to Breeders' Cup weekend.
Amen. And that's really what everyone's working towards. Now, you know, like I said, everyone really knows the Kentucky Derby, but Breeders' Cup weekend is the best of the best. Super Bowl Sunday for horse racing, if you will, March Madness, whatever you want to call it, all wrapped into one. And this is building to it. You know, for the NCAA tournament, these are the conference tournaments. You got to win these ones to get to the dance, if you will. Really same situation. You get in, all you need is a ticket. But the first race that we will be going over, this is all the card on Belmont on Saturday. We'll be starting with race 4. It's the Champagne. It is obviously a grade 1. They're going a mile. These are 2-year-olds. Really, it's kind of two-year-old races, and then a filly and mare turf race, and then the big one. Those are kind of how it's broken up. But the TVG Juvenile race, that's where the ticket will be punched in this Champagne. Do you want to start us off there, Raider Jim?
Sure. And the TVG mile that they're running for to get their ticket punched, if you will, that's actually one of the $2 million races on the $31 million Breeders' Cup weekend. So it is a big race. This is the Champagne Stakes. It's a grade 1. It's a 6-horse field, 1 mile on the dirt, as Brandon already said. You've got, Jackie's Warrior is 3-5 right now, and the favorite for this race. Last time out was on September 7th that she ran. She won on the dirt at 7 furlongs, so a little bit less distance, but ran a speed of 92, which is good. And then also had reinvestment risk is going in at, of course, I didn't write the odds down on that one, but ran
I'm sorry, I have it right here.
Go ahead.
Pull it up. I believe we had it at, here we go. 8-5.
8-5. Now, the interesting thing about that is, and we have talked about this throughout the different podcasts that we've done, a lot of these jockeys and the horses are familiar with one another, or they have run against one another. The last time Reinvestment Risk ran was on September 7th, placed to Jackie's Warrior. So they are familiar with one another. Interesting to note, top speed for Reinvestment Risk was 88. And again, Jackie's Warrior ran at 92 that day. So that is where she gets the nod in the 3-5. Now, Midnight Bourbon is a horse that's out there. Midnight Bourbon ran a speed of 91 on a grade 3 stakes race at Churchill Downs back in September. Why, though, did that horse stand out for me? And the last time I saw the number on that, I believe she was coming in at 6-1.
That is correct.
That what you? Now,
yes.
Did you happen to catch the sire?
I have it right here. Yes, and it's
Interesting, isn't it?
Always. I feel like there's always one of these in one of the races.
So the sire of Midnight Bourbon is a horse called Tis Now, and that should tell you the bloodline of this horse, and that's why it's interesting. And so to see even though it was a grade 3, grade 3 came in second with a speed of 91, but that's why she's at 6-1 right now. And look for Midnight Bourbon to make a run at this. Midnight Bourbon to run in the money is not going to be a surprise to anybody.
Agreed. And I love what you brought up about Midnight Bourbon, because, you lost out to a 21-1 shot in that Iroquois, the grade 3 at Churchill Downs you were referring to. And in those situations, look, this horse came off at 5-1. Now, 5-1, second place, that's pretty much what you expect, maybe even a little bit better. So, like you said, the 90, what was the 91, whatever it was, that was nice, but I do think it is reinvestment risk. And Jackie's Warrior, I think it's obvious why Jackie's Warrior is priced the way it is compared to reinvestment risk. But we've also kind of had the last couple weeks, maybe the second showdown. I go back to Santa Anita with Maximum Security. There was a bit of I think it was Improbable running Maximum Security down. Finally, I think that's what it was. I might have those a little mixed up.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
you're right.
But it could be kind of that summer or that fall, I guess now, of maybe the a chance for revenge. I think you got a really solid, maybe not terribly profitable trifecta box when you go 4, 5, 6. With all due respect to the other horses, I think these are easily the class if they all run their races. I think in that order as well, if you aren't confident, or if you are terribly confident and don't want to pay a little extra to box them, you should always box them. But if you don't want to, I would go 4, 5, 6 just in that order. But yeah, just going back to the last time these two raced, it was a grade 1, the Hopeful at Saratoga. When a horse goes out, wins at this length, I mean, maybe it's about a furlong more, but wins by 2 lengths, 2 1/4. It was no head. There was nothing like that. I am going all in on Jackie's Warrior. Now, is there going to be profit there? No, you're probably going to have to find an exotic, and you're probably going to have to be 3 deep in that exotic if you want reinvestment risk in there, because a 4 or 5 Quinella or Exacta box is not going to pay you what you want. So those are the 3 that I think we're both looking at, and that's what we got for the Champagne.
And I will tell you, if the listeners are looking for a possible long shot to keep an eye on, because the one thing that we repeat and we repeat and repeat ad nauseum is watch those lines. The lines aren't going to change from the day to tomorrow, but on Saturday, after you have your morning coffee, or while you're having your morning coffee because of the time change, you will see the lines moving. Keep your eye on the number 1 horse, Ambivalent. And that's because there's an old favorite trainer of Brandon's and mine. Doug O'Neill has that horse. And if you see Ambivalent move from the current 15-1 to 8-1 or better, you want to at least grab a show ticket on that horse, because O'Neill's going to do his magic and that horse is going to finish in the money. And the only one that's not going to be surprised is Doug O'Neill. He just has a knack for getting those horses and getting them to perform. So, and it's also John Velasquez is riding that horse, and great jockey, real good jockey. So he works with O'Neill very well. I'm going to keep my eye on that horse definitely on Saturday morning.
That's a great point. I can't believe I didn't bring up Ambivalent, because it kind of just dawned on me, going through this, we're on the West Coast, both in Southern California. So it's very Santa Anita, Del Mar, and, kind of the big ones. So the East Coast horses we're not as familiar with, unless they kind of run in the big ones, at least myself personally. This was very similar, because this is a horse that spent all summer at Del Mar. This is the only horse that did that are the ones that I believe I looked at in the entire day. I kind of liken it to where when you go to a party or a new party, and or your first day of work, the only person you know is the person you trained you. So it's just
Right.
like, I don't know you very well, but I know you better than all of these people who I know absolutely nothing about or I've never seen before. So I'm just going to go over and say hi. So, but anyways, yeah, that's a great call in Ambivalent. The line movement, we talked about it with Swiss Skydiver. That line movement, I mean, made me put a $2 win bet on it. You move that line where it is for a championship horse like Swiss Skydiver and put it 11-1, you will get $2 out of me every time, and I will never go away crying. I guarantee you, win or lose. But we move on to race number 5. It will be the Frizette. It's another grade 1. This is the race that will get you into the Juvenile Filly on Breeders' Cup Classic, or on Breeders' Cup weekend.
And that's also a $2 million purse.
Yes.
Yeah.
Big money. And another thing too, before we get into it, $31 million, keeping all the purses in a year that, I mean, I don't have to tell our listeners that, you know, not things aren't normal, but to keep the purses where they were for the Breeders' Cup, that was very big. Obviously, you know, most people in their business are wealthy, but at the same time, you know, anyone takes a hit, it still takes a hit. No one's doing that well right now, no matter what. But anyways, we move on to race number 5. These are going to be 2-year-old fillies. I'll start with just a couple horses for me. It's not too often you see a morning line of 2-1 and it's not the favorite. But the one horse is Venquist. It rebounded from a less than dominant the grade 2. It was the sprint away. It was a 7-1 shot. The debut was not great. Came back, won that, the spin away by 10 lengths as a 7-1 shot. Keep an eye on that horse. Now, like I said, 2-1, not great. But the main money here is, I believe, 2 horse at 9-5. Cantata. Thank you. I can barely even read my own handwriting, but just an absolute dominant debut in a maiden special weight 72K, which is a very, very high class for that. This is a horse that also cost, $950,000 as a yearling. So a lot is expected of the 2 horse, and it lived up to the hype. Like I said, this is a Steve Asmussen horse, and he won last year with Wicked Whisper. That horse was making its debut. Whenever you see a trainer, at least for me, make a debut or have a horse debut in any graded race, let alone a race that's pretty much at the top of the top, this trainer knows how to train for this race. Those are the 2 horses. Kind of short numbers there, but those are the 2 that definitely popped out for me.
Right. Day Out of the Office had a good run at 88 with a speed of 88, but has not run since July 16th. But Day Out of the Office is currently at 3-1, excuse me. And looking at some of the training, some of the workouts, that's also a horse to look at, a horse to watch. If he moves from 3-1 back to, say, a 4-1, 5-1, then maybe the trainers have noticed something, and just in passing, it's gotten out to the folks behind the scenes, and that's why the betting has stopped a little bit. But if it holds at 3-1, if it moves to even at 3.5 or even at 2.5-1, a 5-2 type line, then I would say take a look at Day Out of the Office. Day Out of the Office is going to be ridden by Junior Alvarado, another one of those jockeys that has just been around for a while and knows the horses definitely in that region. So worth looking at. And then also the 5-1 was the other horse that would be not, right on the line. But the last time Joy's Rocket ran, she ran a 5.5 furlong. She hasn't really been tested on the distance, but she's fast. The 5.5 furlongs she ran at 89. Could she get another notch in there? Can she hold the 89 for the whole distance? I don't know. I think that was the one thing I liked about Day Out of the Office. I think Day Out of the Office had run a mile. One thing to keep in mind in some of these races with the Fillies, and Brandon is going to understand what I'm saying because he reads the lines probably a lot closer than I do. But if you look at the history of these horses, especially on these 2-year-olds, you're going to see where they have got maybe 2 or 3 starts since 2019. And maybe in those 1 or 2 or 3 starts, they finished in the money twice, but as you said, they lost their debut. So we're not talking the pedigree or the history on the track of, say, an Authentic or a Tis the Law, horses like that. These are different levels of horse, which makes it a little more, sometimes it can be harder to handicap. Sometimes it makes it easier, though, depending on what was the race and what was their competition going back to that race 4. So you've got the 2 top horses in there. Well, they ran against each other already. So you've got a history there to refer to. And you can look at the different positions of the race. Was it a wire? And actually it was. Jackie's Warrior won wire to wire in that race when she raced against reinvestment risk. So, you know, what's different about the track now? I don't know. Probably nothing, because the weather's supposed to be great, fine. Track is supposed to be nice and firm. So we should be fine.
Yeah, and I like what you said about Joy's Rocket. The speed numbers obviously aren't quite where we see with the others, but at 5-1, I think you're going to see, you know, a really 2 horses that are 2, maybe 3 day out of the office. Very, very impressive in 2 runs. Obviously, what was it? The Shirleyville or the Schuylerville won that at 20-1, kind of got everyone's attention very quickly. And then a big jump up in class, but Joy's Rocket 5-1, just usually the way the money rolls, I think it's almost, you almost kind of expect this horse, the numbers to move the opposite direction and go higher than 5-1. So keep your eye there. 2 out of 3 lifetime with wins. Like I said, another Steve Smuson horse. A lot to like there, but I think it does come down to the top 2 with Vequist and Katata. So we'll see how that goes in the Grade 1 Frizette. And let me get myself ready. I believe it's race 8.
Race 8, that's correct.
This is the Flower Bowl. Flower Bowl Grade 1, going 1.25 miles. Oh, I'm sorry. One last thing on Joy's Rocket. The only thing that I will be a bit, I guess, concerned about has been, that you kind of alluded to it, was, I think, 5.5 furlongs, so the longest it's gone. That's going to be, this horse is going to be stretched out on Saturday. We'll see how that goes. But like I said, see, if it gets to 8-1, I think it'll be worth a play show look. I'll tell you that right now. But the 8 is, of course, the Flower Bowl, going 1.25 miles. This gets you into the Filly and Mare.
It's the Maker's Mark, Fillies and Mare turf.
Thank you. And we, going 1.25 miles, obviously on the turf at Belmont. What are your thoughts here on the Flower Bowl?
Cambier Pack is the horse that's at 2.5-1 right now. Last time out on September the 12th, ran a Grade 2 and won. Now, what's key to that is not only did it, you might say, well, it's a Grade 2 race. That's a notch down. That's still a quality race. That horse also went off at 22-1 and won the race. It wasn't supposed to win, wasn't supposed to finish in the money, but that's one of those long shots, which is how she ended up here in the Flower Box Stakes, and that's why she is currently the favorite in this race. A nice horse, a strong horse, and then there's this is a real good field, and you can see the difference. This is for 3-year-olds and up. That difference in the track history, the race history, and the 3-year-olds. Now that's why they move it to later in the day, the 8 race, the 9 race, where you get to see the headliners come out, if you will, for the big red carpet walk. And so we've got Cambier Pack, and then you've got My Sister Nat, Civil Union, and Nay Lady Nay are also horses that are out there. My Sister Nat's at 3-1. Last time out ran 1 mile and 3/8, I believe it was. Or no, excuse me, that's not my note. Pardon me. Scratch all that. 13 races, in the money 11 of those times. So a very strong horse. Last time out also came in on a Grade 2 with a speed of 88. Going back to Cambier Pack, the speed rating on that was a 90 at that horse on the race in September. The one I really like that's a 3-1 right now is Civil Union. That's the horse that I would be looking at to go to the winner's circle. ran just a shade slower at 89, but when you get to 89, 90, 88, it could have been the difference of having to pull wide or not being able to get between a couple horses. Civil Union, though, a good horse. I like Civil Union a lot. The sire is Warfront, and if you know the history of Warfront, or if you don't, you need to look at the history of that sire. That Warfront was a great horse and a phenomenal thoroughbred. The other one, Nay Lady Nay, last time out ran 1 1/8 on the turf, and is a strong horse at 3-1. Also, now Nay Lady Nay is from Ireland, and Ireland always seems to send over the best of the breeds out there. So look for that. Those 4 horses, I like Cambier Pack, but I really like Civil Union up front. And I would look for Nay Lady Nay to finish in the money, and along with My Sister Nat.
I like that.
Note on Nay Lady Nay also, on that 1.125 she ran on the turf the last time out, she clocked at 104. Horse can run. So again, to run into the money on this race, no surprise.
Agreed. And definitely Nay Lady Nay. Also My Sister Nat. Obviously, My Sister Nat and Civil Union have locked horns before, if you will. It was at Saratoga the 5th of September. Bo Bell is also in here at 12-1. Just kind of, no disrespect, but just kind of there. There's a lot of really big time class in this race. And beat all 3 of those and maybe a couple more, but I really do, like you said, Civil Union, 3 for 3 overall. And it's just a build. This horse has been building. It started out in the allowances and then got to an ungraded stakes race, won there, and then worked its way up to a grade 2. Now, that's just kind of the perfect little staircase or ladder, whatever you want to say. That's what you're building.
Good progression, good rate of progression.
Exactly. And it's gotten better every single time. I mean, obviously, when you start moving up, it might not be as dominant, but if you're still winning, your opponents are getting better. You're getting better. And that's the key. Civil Union, for me, I think is the one to look at. Now, the one horse you did talk about, Cambier Park, this is a horse a couple years ago. Look, it's $835,000 in winnings for a 4-year-old. That's just a veteran of grade 3s, 2s, and 1s. This is also a horse that this will only be its 2nd run this season. Right. You talked about the Woodbine run in the Canadian. It was a grade 2. I really believe they were kind of, as you know, it did get upset, but I think it was a bit of a surprise to this group that probably said, okay, let's throw in a grade 2 to just maybe get her legs underneath her for the year, and came out and said, uh-oh. But I really do expect a nice bounce back. This is also a horse that in 2019 won the Del Mar Oaks, another grade 1 that I'm very familiar with on the turf at this same, well, I guess it's an extra 1/8 of a mile, but you know, it's essentially the same there. So just keep an eye on Cambier Park and Civil Union. I think their lines are going to this is pretty much whatever line is worse. I feel like that's where I'm going to go. I'll let the line determine who I pick in this situation, because I really like both of those horses. But yeah, I'm definitely not.
Another note on this race, if I may.
Yes.
Interestingly enough, you know, a lot of time when we were talking the West Coast horses, and of course even on the national level or international level, the name Bob Baffert comes up, and watch this race because Baffert's got 2. Well, we just talked about Cambier Park, My Sister Nat, and Nay Lady Nay. All 3 of those horses are trained by Chad Brown. And now that I've read that, and that finally caught my eye. Even more, I like Nay Lady Nay, because also riding Nay Lady Nay is Irad Ortiz, who's one of the best jockeys out there in that region. So the combination of Ortiz and Chad Brown that's definitely a horse to watch. Don't be surprised if the number moves on that one. Right now, again, at
7-2. 7-2.
7-2. Yeah, look for that one to move down to definitely 3, if not 5-2, something like that by the time the bell sounds. But I would definitely keep my eye on Nay Lady Nay on that.
Great call. Great call there. And moving on to really the
showcase.
Yeah, the showcase, the main event, if you will. It is the Jockey Gold Club Grade 1. This ticket, this is the big one, or well, at least gets you into the big one, which is the Longines Classic, $6 million purse. I believe the richest in North America, but and right up there with, close to the Saudi Cup. Although technically no one's been paid about that, but we'll get to that in another podcast. Anyways, the real one, the horse that really jumps out to me is the 4 horse, is Tacticus. Probably the class here. Obviously struggled last time out in a race that it was, I think, 3-5. That was at Saratoga, the Woodward Grade 1. Finished second to Global Campaign. This is a horse that's been in the money 10 out of 13 runs, 3 out of 4 at Belmont. One of the best parts, I think, about this horse for me is it's won close to $2.9 million. Actually, it's won over $2.9 million. So when you see a horse that's done that, it's been at the top of the top and won there. And also another thing, this is a horse earlier this year did run in the Saudi Cup, the richest race in the world that, of course, Maximum Security won, but has yet to be paid out for. But that means, look, this horse has been high hopes. If sometimes you'll see people in or see certain trainers maybe throw a horse in a event just because, hey, I have a horse in the Kentucky Derby, or, this or that. That doesn't happen when you're sending these horses overseas. It costs a lot of money just to get the horses over there. So everybody really expects those horses to win. So if you expect that horse to win, send it over there. Obviously didn't win. Really, I think it was like 4 lengths off the lead. So of Maximum Security, not terrible, but also would have been expecting a little bit more, as I don't have the odds on that, but I believe that's a situational thing. Anyways, what are your thoughts here on the Jockey Gold Club?
Yeah, the interesting thing, again, horses that know each other and have run against one another. Tacitus, as you said, at even money, the obvious favorite. Look for that to move. It's not going to stay even. It's going to go way down. You're probably going to see definitely under even money on that by the time it goes. Happy Saver at 2-1, 3-0 right now in starts. And not a bad horse at all by any stretch. And of course, I didn't write down the position numbers, so I have to refer back to my notes here. Happy Saver's actually running out of the number 1 spot, which is a nice thing. And again, Irad Ortiz, there's that name again. He's got the horse on the rail. He rides very good out of that position. So look for that horse to definitely. It's going to be a strong race. We'll probably finish in the money. There's also a horse running Prioritize. Prioritize and Tacitus have a history because Prioritize also ran in the Saudi Cup and lost to Tacitus for what that was worth. Tacitus ended up in 5th position. Prioritize. Going back to Tacitus, the favorite, though, I will tell you the last 4 speed ratings on that horse are 107, 110, 100, and 109. There is no speed rating on any of the horses that ran in the Saudi Cup. They just don't register that, so there is no number. But on either side of that, those are the average speeds. That is a fast horse. Prioritize. 105 was the last top speed I saw for that. There's also a 4-1 out there, Mystic Guide, with a speed rating of 108. Won $150,000 grade 2, the Jim Dandy, back on the 6th of September. That was a 1 1/8 mile. So just a touch under the 1 1/4, but definitely has enough in the tank where it can make a race out of this. So I also like Mystic Guide. On Mystic Guide, I'm going to, as you referenced back in one of the other races, how the number moves on that one is going to determine if I put anything on it. But I get stuck on the speed sometimes, and the 108 compared to the Prioritized 105 would make me think, and after we saw what Swiss Skydiver did, obviously, if you've got the speed, you can run with the horses if you got the right person on the steering the ship, if you will. And Luis Saez is going to be riding Prioritize, and riding on Mystic Guide is John Velasquez, who it doesn't get any more qualified in Hall of Fame than it does with John Velasquez Jr. So, well, this is really going to be one of those races you don't want to miss, because it should be a burner all the way around.
I agree, and it's almost, it's the last one. This is essentially the last Willy Wonka golden ticket that's going to be handed out to get into.
There is one on Sunday, but we
is it the
do
classic?
Not have any information on those yet.
Yeah, not quite yet. But in terms of all the stuff we can study now, but going back to Mystic Guide, the speed numbers, like you kind of alluded to, aren't there in terms of the competition. I'll tell you something else too. This horse is a 3-year-old. Now, the reason that's kind of a big deal is it's the only 3-year-old, and it's almost similar to a rookie. Your 3-year-old is really kind of the first year you can really make a huge move. Obviously, your 2-year-old, if you have a very successful 2-year-old season, you are a elite horse. A lot of your 2-year-old season is just learning how to get out of the gate, learning how to run at a lot of places. Now, there are obviously certain situations. Some are great right away, but going into your 3-year-old, that's of course your Kentucky Derby year, really kind of, I guess, the prime, if you will. And for this horse to be running against 4, 5, 6, and 7-year-olds that have ran in grade 1, grade 2s, they're pretty much longer than this horse has been alive in some situations.
Right.
Keep an eye on that. But I love what you thought about with the line. There's so often in horse racing, I'll just have 4 horses or 2 or 3, and I'll just like, what are the odds? What are the best way? The projected profit lines sometimes are the best lines to look at, because those are the way you can just make a couple bucks. Like I said, I've always talked about horse racing. You can make money a lot of different ways. Be a little creative. This is probably a race you're going to want to maybe be a little creative with, because I think there's only 5 runners. Yeah, 5 runners, and 4 of them we just talked about. We didn't talk about Name Changer. At least I didn't have him written down. That's a horse that's been in the money 16 out of 21 times, has some impressive speed numbers. Now, a lot of them were, in 18, 19, but still a horse that at 7 years old, little bit past its prime, but you never know. So all 5 of these horses have an opportunity. Really keep an eye, like Raider Jim said, you have to, this is a must see really day at Belmont. Really one of the better days that you're going to see at Belmont.
It's going to be a good one, definitely. And then we're just a matter of a small hiatus as far as big races go, because we are only 2 or 3 weekends out from the Breeders' Cup. And when Breeders' Cup hits, that's going to be a fun weekend, and we're going to have a lot of information leading into that. One thing I'd like to say, we talked about Tacitus, we talked about Prioritize, who both ran in the Saudi Cup, and we each made reference to the Breeders' Cup weekend and the $31 million in purses. Mark your calendars if you're not familiar with it. Mark your calendars for the Saudi Cup, which is usually in February. They're going to run it again, I believe, in 2021. The purse for that one race is $30 million. So if that gives you an idea of the kind of money they're handing out at that race, and right now there's still, and Brandon and I will hit upon it again, I'm sure, as we're looking for things to fill in on Thursdays the next couple of weeks, the Maximum Security storyline where that horse won the Saudi Cup, and they are still holding up the $10 million purse, because they're like, nah, as soon as the trainer got back and gets popped for doping and things like that. It's a big, long story that we've done a little bit of coverage on, and we will do more. I will resurrect that story if it's the last thing I do. But yeah, so the money that they put in to the Saudi Cup is just astonishing.
Yeah, I think I said earlier.
But the best. You've got a grade 1 race where the horse that wins will qualify for a $6 million purse race in November. And that horse came in 5th. That's the caliber of athlete they have at this running in the Saudi Cup.
Yeah, that's a A huge jump, $10 million, already the richest in the world, 30 million. That's a massive, massive jump. The best of the best will be there. Absolutely no doubt. And you know what, I've been kind of telling myself, I believe, well, yeah, it has to be, cause it is the weekend in November. I believe it's the first weekend of November. I just keep telling myself, all we have to do, we just have to, survive the circus that will be election day, and we get to the weekend and we'll have, or at least the Friday, Saturday part of the weekend, and we'll have 20 great races. And you know what, if the world burns down, at least wait till Sunday, because I can't wait for all of these races. And another thing, I'm not 100% sure, because sometimes some of these trainers and owners aren't, they know a lot more behind the scenes, but I'll tell you what, if we could see Swiss Skydiver in the Classic, my goodness,
that'll be fantastic.
That would be fantastic. I mean, it's all right. I think Swiss Skydiver right now already put itself in contention for Horse of the Year. I talk a lot about Rachel Alexandria, who up until, of course, Swiss Skydiver was the first or the last filly to win the Preakness, and that horse won Horse of the Year. So there's definitely a path there for Swiss Skydiver. Really, really impressive run. It's been a really impressive, at least the last two runs of, or at least the last two jewels of the Triple Crown. But final thoughts as we get ready for really the last qualifying weekend before we get ready to dive into these races.
I think it's just a fitting field to bring down the curtain on the Challenge Cup series. It's been great to not only follow it as I usually do, but to be able to follow it with you and discuss it each Thursday and educate one another and educate anybody who happens to be tuning in and listening to us. Again, we don't claim to know everything out there about horses. We're just having a discussion and sharing with you what our viewpoints are. And we are not telling you to bet in any certain way that we would not bet or we wouldn't consider, but the decision's always up to you. And I'm hoping that this COVID thing turns around, and if the year starts spinning in the right direction, the way it's supposed to, what you're going to see in November of 2021 is Brandon and Raider Jim broadcasting from the Breeders' Cup at Del Mar, because it is slated to be here next year. And that's one worth putting on the calendar. And if you can get a ticket to get in there, by all means, again, put it on your calendar and try to make it to the Breeders' Cup. It'll be an experience you won't forget.
That is probably the best bet we will ever give you ever. That if allowed, myself and Raider Jim will be there on Breeders' Cup weekend at Del Mar. That is a 1,000% guarantee if possible. Another absolutely great show, and I Raider Jim alluded to it, but it's a lot of fun working with Raider Jim, and a lot of times it's nice to just get yourself out of your life or real life and just enjoy and get away from all the craziness that is going on. And looking over the sport, the form book is always a lot of fun for me, and definitely doing these podcasts with Raider Jim and for all of you. It's awesome. And don't forget, now we didn't give you any picks today. We gave you some ways to go, but all you got to do, follow us on Twitter. You have at Raider Jim 1090 or at Ferst Report FERST. And we will be giving you those picks on Saturday. We'll always be coming, because right now, look, we're not going to give you picks on something where the lines are going to be moving like crazy. This isn't football where you lock in your odds when you get them in, but so we have to wait for all that to happen. But follow us on Twitter, and also give a follow to the Ramblin Gamblin Sports Podcast Network, which we are a part of as well. That'll be at and Ramblin on Twitter. Give all that a follow on YouTube and all that. So for Raider Jim, I am Brandon Ferst, aka Ferst Report. Thank you all so much for listening to the original Call to Post.
Pleasure.
Have a wonderful night, everybody. Take care, and hope you cash all those bets. Now go wash your hands.
Be safe, be healthy.
Amen. Have a good one, everybody.